right, welcome back to another episode of The Goodall Show, where we show you how to learn, motivate you to grind, and encourage you to give. I'm James Goodall, your host. We are here, and it is getting close to Christmas. We are ready to go. We are learning. We are growing. I want to talk about goals a little bit. If you've accomplished some of your goals, if you have reached some of your goals, I'm looking at my board right now if you're watching on YouTube, but I had a goal of hitting 1,000 subs on YouTube, hit that. A goal of buying 2 new mowers and 2 new trucks, I bought that. So I checked those off the list. Had a goal of hitting a certain amount of followers on TikTok, had a goal of doing gross for 2021, did not. I don't think we're going to quite reach the goal of 2021 there. But goals, right? You're gonna set goals for 2022, and some of these goals that I look up there and see, mowing, I had on there 325 yards, right? I wanted to get 325 yards, but literally in the middle of the season or maybe in the spring, I looked at it and said, I don't know if I want to get to that many. I don't know if I want to have to add another crew and buy another trailer and buy another truck. I don't think I want to get to that spot. So the goals kind of changed throughout the year. Christmas lights I had on there 25, but I started working for my alma mater, and really we didn't really have enough time to do 25 of them, so we didn't push for them. We just did kind of the ones we did last year. So goals are going to change throughout your life, throughout your even throughout the year, and even month to month, they're going to change. As long as you have something you're reaching for, right? And what is the ultimate goal? And last week we talked about Tribe of Millionaires, which getting around the same people, getting around the right kind of people, and listening to the right kind of people in your business, in your life, in your relationships. I really think that's key. This week I want to talk about the E-Myth Revisited. And the E-Myth Revisited is a book by Michael Gerber that I have read twice now. And what I got out of it, the golden nugget that I remember getting out of it about 6 months ago, again, I read it 3 years ago, then I read it 6 months ago, was making your business to where it could be franchised. I'm not saying you want to go franchise it. I'm not saying someone from, a couple states away would want to franchise it, but is your business so efficient and so process oriented that it could be franchised, right? Where someone could come in and be like, hey, you take this model and you make it yours, and you take whatever our business is and apply it to your business. 3 years ago, that wouldn't have happened, right? It wasn't organized, it wasn't efficient, it wasn't lean, it wasn't that way. But I feel like we're almost there to where if we were to say, hey, let's franchise it and let's copy our systems, copy our processes, someone could come in and do that. We're still a year away. I really think we're not there yet. But this book has really helped. And like I said with the last book, it's just a story that has practical principles in it. We're going to talk to some guy. He started his business this year. From what I get from the messages, he started his business this year, and he brought in over $70,000 worth of revenue. Absolutely killing it. I love talking to these guys, man. First, is I realized real quickly that they have figured it out faster than I figured it out. And they are on their way to becoming however big they want to become. If they want to keep it at $150,000 a year, keep it at $150,000. But they could, if they wanted to, get it to $500,000 to $1 million in revenue pretty quickly. Because if you have the right systems and you have the right processes in place, it's not hard to duplicate it, right? If you have $150,000 bringing in, but your system and processes are perfect, it's not hard to go to $300,000. It's just adding another crew, right? Adding another landscape crew and jobs, right? So I love talking to these guys because first of all, they motivate me, and then learning from them and saying, dude, like that way you did it makes sense. And if you apply this to your business, it could too. If you like this podcast, if you like this, share it, man, because if you learn something, like I say almost every time, if you learn something, someone else will too. Hopefully we get this call going. I'll give him a call, and then we'll be right back.
This is Zach.
Hey, Zach. This is James. What's going on?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am great. I have a little echo in the microphone, so I'm not very knowledgeable about it, but I think I just fixed it, so we'll see. Does it echo?
Okay.
Does it echo on your side?
A little bit, but it's fine.
Okay. All right. Just trying to make sure everything's good. Okay, cool. Hey, man, thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So you busy? You busy now around this time or no?
I'm not.
Okay.
Well, right now, so I started this season. I graduated college in June, and I was able to generate $70,000 in revenue this season with a margin with 20% net.
Really?
And thanks a lot, for the content that you come out with, and the other guys, because one of the biggest messages that I came across was focus on the high profit, focus on being efficient, and that's certainly what I was able to do. It's a little bit less than what I was trying to go after. The goal was to get 100,000, but I kind of ended the season a little bit early because I wasn't sure when snow was going to happen.
Yeah,
I ended the season in June. I mean, not June. I ended in November, but that was a mistake on my part. But if I had a redo this season, I certainly probably could get to the $100,000 range. But
yeah. So you graduated in June, and I think from your message that you said you started it this year, like basically cold turkey, like you didn't have it before, or you kind of were doing stuff before.
Yeah. So I have on the books. I started it in 2020, but this was my first season with the actual business.
Okay.
And I missed, obviously I missed a little bit of the spring rush. So I think certainly next season I'm going to be able to get in the $100,000 range,
Nice.
Pretty easily.
Nice. So a couple questions. First, are you by yourself, or do you have a helper? And then secondly, what did you get your degree in? And like, are you going to be using that degree in the business? You just decided, hey, I'm going to go full time with lawn care, even though I got a degree in something else.
Yeah. So this year was, part of it was solo, and then I brought on, someone else for a little bit, just to help me out with, because I was doing college, a couple college things, and I just needed a little bit of help. This next season, I'm going to try to do 100% solo until I absolutely need to bring someone on, because I did the numbers on what it would cost, and it's not cheap. And then I got my degree in business. So technically I used my degree, but in terms of the traditional view of, you go to college for a job, I'm certainly not doing that. It really didn't go to college for me. It was kind of, for my family, and I had a college degree, so it was all paid for.
Okay.
I definitely, if I didn't have college paid for, I definitely would not be going to school. It was just, it was one of those things that,
Yeah.
make the family happy before I did my own stuff.
Gotcha. All right. I mean, first of all, just getting a degree, like finishing college, that's an accomplishment. So, it's not like it's a waste, but you realized now, man, if your goal is to get to 100,000 and by yourself solo, that's good money. Your profit margins is probably going to be pretty good with that. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
So, so this next year, so this year you finished, you finished school, you went full time. Next year, trying to do everything solo. What's the biggest setback or thing you're struggling with, or thing that you need to fix going into 2022 to make that happen?
Yes. So I know on your last podcast you talked about like CRM.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find one that I can, technically afford, based off of a budget. I've been looking at LMN, but that's like $200 a month. I just think that's a little bit out. But right now I'm trying to figure that out so I can get my organization taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, and this was kind of a question I had for you, was I was kind of just focusing on how could I be the most efficient as possible and focus on that. Like then when I absolutely need get an employee, I will have the efficiency, all down. And when I mean efficiency, I'm talking about like getting equipment for, specific jobs that I do. And there's this one piece of equipment. It's called I think it's called the Smart Gate. It's a conveyor for my dump trailer, which would allow me to put all the materials into a wheelbarrow without having to shovel it. And then I would take my mower wheelbarrow and then, take the material to the location. And, how do you distinguish, like, whether it's a good time to get an employee or get a piece of equipment that would essentially replace an employee?
I see. So yeah, you're looking at, okay, I have these jobs, or I have this amount of business, and I could either hire a guy and do like more man hours and like him work hard, that guy, he can replace it, or I can buy an equipment, and it would kind of instead of having to hire somebody, I could just use the equipment because it make it get done faster. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I mean, the really with that is you just have to look at and see if the cost is the same. If the cost is the same, well, you only have to buy that equipment once. Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it could be apples to apples, right? I don't know if you could look at it and compare the two and say, okay, this employee and this piece of equipment is going to take the same amount of time. Obviously, if you're moving a pile of dirt, equipment is going to be faster, right? But if it's something else, well, the person is going to be the equipment's not going to be able to do all the work. You're going to have someone managing or using that piece of equipment, right? So
yeah,
what, for instance, like what are you thinking about? Like, I know you said the dump trailer to use that, but would that replace an employee? Like you wouldn't have to hire an employee because you bought that piece of equipment?
Oh, maybe not exactly that particular one. I mean, it would definitely save me a lot of time, because something that would take me 5-10 minutes, I could do in seconds.
Gotcha.
Because I wouldn't have to shovel anything out of my trailer. But I know, another piece of equipment I'm looking into, and I'm trying to do everything without going into debt, because the only debt I have right now is my truck.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's a pretty good loan that I have. It's only $370 a month for that.
Yeah.
And
I saw that you sold your car. Did you? Was that right?
Yeah.
You sold your car to get a piece of equipment. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I still have the money for that, and I'm trying to find equipment that would allow me to make my life easier, and then when I get employees, make their life easier.
Yeah.
Once I get to that point.
And then what kind of jobs are you doing? So you're solo. So what kind of jobs are you doing? Like the last podcast, the last person I talked to, he had basically, let's just say, I mean, it was 40%, but 40% mowing and 60% other jobs. Is that kind of where you're at, or is it more?
No, I'm completely different. It was like 99% hardscaping and then 1% mowing.
Really? Okay.
Because
all right.
I only had 5 mowing clients this season, and it was primarily just hardscaping. But then I was running into situations where the hardscaping was drying up, and then I was like, well, maybe I should have focused more on mowing, and that's kind of the goal for next season, is to kind of flip-flop some stuff.
Okay.
70% mowing, 30% hardscaping.
See the thing about that. So right, that's a great like conversation to have. First of all, is I was reading a book one time, and it said if whatever business you're doing, if 1% of it is whatever, is it worth it to keep, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if like 1% of our business is this job, well, do we have equipment laying around? Do we have this stuff laying around that really, if we just dropped it, it would make our life easier? That's not true in this situation, I don't think, because you said, hey, sometimes it dries up and I don't have maybe not any, but I don't have as much money coming in. So if you're trying to flip completely, basically, right? I mean, you're looking at going more mowing next year than hardscaping, right? Because you said 70% mowing and 30% hardscaping. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay.
That's correct.
So right now you got 5 yards. I mean, what are you trying to get to? Are you trying to get to 50 yards next year, or 25, or what is that?
Yeah, I think 50 is probably more doable. I definitely, there's a company in my area. I live in a very small town.
Okay.
And we have a multi-million-dollar company in our small town. And I'm in a pretty good situation right now, where he's kind of getting older, and I kind of want to, kind of replace him.
Okay.
So, and he's mainly mowing.
Okay.
And he has over 600 mowing clients.
Man, it doesn't sound like a small town, huh? Unless he's the only one there doing mowing. Is it?
Oh, we have a population of 3,000, and he goes to the cities around us.
Okay, makes sense. All right. So so the 70% mowing, if you can get 50 there. I mean, and let's say they bring in $1,000 a year, that's 50,000, and then you just got to make up the other 50. The difference you're going to find in hardscaping.
Oh yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah. So the hardscaping is probably more profitable, I would imagine, right? I mean, to do that 70,000 in revenue, I mean, how many jobs were you doing a week? Were you doing just one a week or one every 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was kind of like one or two a week.
Okay.
I definitely ran into those situations where I underquoted, learning from those mistakes. But the reason why I want to do mowing is it's a lot easier, and I just feel like I could find employees easier to do mowing than hardscaping. Mm-hmm. Because I worked for a company that we specialized in limestone, and you can make a lot of money with limestone, but being able to pay someone to replace me to do the limestone, it would be, very expensive to do that.
Yeah, and you have to find that person, right? You have to train him in how you do it. And I'm sure if you found that person, he would know what he's doing. But yeah, you're right. Like I said it before, it's easier to teach somebody how to mow grass, right? You could teach one guy to cut grass for you. He takes your truck out. But there's pros and cons to that, right? I mean, you have to get a lot of clients, and you have to get a lot of business. So 50. If you started last year and you got those 5, how'd you get those 5? Did you pass out flyers? Did you advertise on Facebook, or did it just kind of came to you?
I absolutely did nothing for that. It just came to me.
Really?
And I actually got a couple commercial, 2 of those are commercial.
Okay. Yeah. So really. So if your goal is to get to 100,000 next year, but you say, hey, I'm looking to basically flip, right? I'm looking to do more mowing and less hardscaping, right? Percentage-wise, a lot more. Do you have the equipment right now? Like, do you have the riding mower, or do you have a push mower, or how does that work?
Yeah, I have a stand-on, and it was I bought it a couple of years ago before I started my business.
Okay.
And it was just kind of one of those things. I probably should have purchased it at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have a stand-on mower
that's perfect.
right now.
So you got the stuff you can do. To me, it's crazy how you do the hardscaping by yourself. That's pretty impressive. I mean, unless you have somebody coming in and helping you. I mean, how big a hardscaping job are you talking? Like patios and stuff?
It was very, very hard. I did $10,000 jobs by myself.
Really?
And I definitely got burned out.
Okay.
Especially at the end of the season. I had recover for a month. Really? Because there was just too much on my shoulders. That's kind of why I want to do more mowing.
Yeah. And with the mowing, I tell people, if you're going to be solo, you don't want to fill up your whole schedule with mowing, right? You don't want to do 5 days a week with mowing, because hardscaping is more profitable. And especially now, if you're trying to scale back a little bit on hardscaping, you can be more selective, right? Like you can look at it and be like, okay, I have 5 opportunity jobs. I'm going to price it higher for one because I'm only trying to get one, right? In the next 5 weeks, I don't need 10 hardscaping jobs, right? I don't need 10 of them like I did last year, two a week. Well, I only need 1, if not 1 every other week, because I'm trying to focus on mowing. This hardscaping is just bonus. So you can price it even higher, and then you can be more, you can choose more, right? Well, out of these 5, this one right here, I really don't want to do because it's going to be a little more challenging. Well, now I can focus on the other 4. So that's a benefit of it too, of getting that reoccurring revenue established. Like I've said before, for us, we have the last 3 years, we haven't really focused on any odd jobs, any landscape jobs, like they've come along and we've done some and stuff if we have time, but we've been more focused on reoccurring revenue because that's like kind of like our long-term goal, and it's easy to teach people. It's you can rely on it, but focusing on that reoccurring revenue sounds like a great plan, man, if you're asking me.
Yeah, and the passion for me in this industry is definitely the hardscaping, but I know, like, when I was breaking down the numbers, it just seemed like to save my body over time would just make more sense to do the mowing. And I was just curious, like, I mentioned that piece of equipment for my dump trailer.
Yeah.
It's $16,000, and this would be paid. I wouldn't go in debt for it. Is it something, like, just from what I've said, it would allow me to be more efficient? I'd be able to do rock jobs very easily.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to make an investment like that with that piece of equipment?
So here's the thing, right? The numbers you gave me, $70,000 you brought in last year, and you said, which might be not totally perfectly accurate, but you said you profited 20%, right? Am I right with that?
Yes, and I have an accountant.
Okay. So
that's the one thing.
And was that after you got paid? Was that like after you got paid, or that's like what the business profited? Or okay, so you paid yourself and then whatever's left over, okay? So am I correct with that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So really what you have to look at, and you have to determine, this is kind of what it is. You have to look at the ROI. If I buy this equipment, how much is it going to return on me? Return on investment, right? The ROI. And that $16,000, right? You know that if you profited 20% out of 70,000, that's like $14,000 in profit. So all of your profit from last year would have gone to that piece of equipment, which is fine. And I don't know your business. You know it a lot better than me, right? You just have to make that decision. Is it worth it? If next year, right, let's say you profit 100, or let's say you bring in $100,000 and you profit the same, 20%. Well, that means all of my profit, I'm basically working, to pay off that equipment. I know you didn't. You say you weren't gonna go in debt, but you spent $16,000 for that next year. Well, all of that profit from next year would go to that piece of equipment. And like I said, that's just the decision you're gonna have to come to and say, yeah, I want to do it. And obviously, that piece of equipment is gonna last you 10 years, 15 years if you take care of it. But to me, that's like, we've never bought anything that big, we've never even bought a truck that much. So that sounds like a lot for such a small company, for me, in my mind. Is there a way to, if you're doing a rock job, rent a piece of equipment or this? Because $16,000, dude, I mean, that breaks my heart that all of your money next year, your profit, would go towards that one piece of equipment.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, because I was renting some equipment this season, and I used a mini skid loader, and I wouldn't use that for rock, but
so it's just
that
an
was
attachment?
like $1,000.
It's attachment. It's an attachment on your dump trailer. Okay.
Have you ever seen the mulch mate?
Yep. I have.
It's basically that, but they make it for dump trailers.
I've seen that, and they that looks really sweet, man. It looks awesome. It's just, you have to, like I said, you can make the decision and maybe think about it. But $16,000, you got to understand that's going to be like all your profit next year. And if you wanted to, upgrade or market more, or you wanted to buy another mower that, something that would help you maybe add 2 crews the following year, you wouldn't really have that profit left over, because it all went to that one piece of equipment. But like I said, I think you said you have the money now. You would just buy it. You just have to come to that decision and say, it's worth it, and I'm going to do it.
Okay.
If there's hesitation, like I said, if you want my advice, I feel like that's a lot of money to spend for such a, I guess, a small company. I don't think you're that small. I think next year you're going to get over 100,000, because it seems like you're driven, and you were in school this past year, so you're going to get over 100,000, I think. But That's just a lot of money. That's just a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And is there a way to maybe bypass that and hold it off 1 year so you can retain some of that profit?
Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking about was potentially just using all of that money into marketing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and that would potentially put me over $100,000 because that's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
For marketing.
Yeah, and really, for marketing in your situation, you could spend a lot of money quick. You could spend $5,000 in a month, which you don't need to, right? We spend in marketing, very, very little. And the main thing we do is pass out flyers door to door. If you know high school kids, if you know maybe your brother or your cousin who would you'd pay them a couple, $10 an hour to go pass out flyers door to door. Like, those work, right? If you're trying to get individual yards in the spring, like the spring rush, well, that costs very little, Facebook ads, if you set it for $25 a week, that's how much they're going to promote it, $25 a week. And you're not going to spend that much money on marketing, right? What we do, the only thing we do is Facebook ads and door-to-door flyers.
Okay.
And yeah, you're going to have to do a little bit of promoting this year because you're trying to go from 5 yards to 50. But 10,000, like I say it all the time, I know 10,000 flyers is a lot, and there's no way you can pass them out yourself, 10,000. But if you decided to pass out 5,000, I mean, we get 1% return on 5,000 on flyers, and that's 50 yards. So, and then you have to pass it out in the spring, and it has to look professional. But 5,000 flyers is only $450 maybe, So
okay.
That's a lot. That $16,000, you don't need to spend that much money on marketing. But if you want to continue to do Facebook ads throughout the year, maybe set it at 25. I don't know if you're familiar with Facebook ads. Have you ever done that before?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really done it right because I've spent a lot of money and I haven't really seen much returns. I'm kind of testing right now.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people too. Like, if you're not familiar with Facebook ads, you can spend a lot of money quick, right? And don't even know if they're working. Like, maybe they are working, but maybe you have no clue. If you just start out doing Facebook ads, you might not have any idea, like, is this even working? But flyers are a huge thing, man. And I know you have to walk, and I know you have to pass them out door to door, but it's cheap. And you can that's the only way. That's how we've added most of our yards, is by Facebook ads. I mean flyers door to door. So that $16,000, like, you have. I mean, you don't need to spend. I mean, you could set aside, maybe $2,000 at the beginning and say, I'm going to spend $2,000 in marketing, and save that other stuff for maybe there is a piece of equipment, or there is this, or there is that, where I need it, and it would help me be more efficient. That the rock thing, that's just a very big piece of equipment that you could use, and it would probably help you. But is there something else that would even help it more?
Okay.
For not that much money, right? Go ahead.
Yeah. Yep. Have you ever done like the every door direct mail?
So
instead of handing them out, like, have you ever done like the math on that?
I have not, and I think it would be more profitable. But I looked up the price. So for us to print up, I think at the time it was like 5,000 flyers. For us to print up 5,000 flyers, it might have been 10,000, but I did the price, and it was like $600 to print them up, but then to pass out those, it was like 5,000, and maybe that's a bad. Maybe I looked it up wrong, and this was like a year and a half ago, and I just, at the time, I was like, it's just not worth it. I do think it is worth it. Like, if you have the money down the road, like, I highly recommend do not do door to door right now, because I think you want to have as much cash as possible for something else, and learn the hard way, right? Because this is what's going to happen. You're going to print up a flyer, and you're going to pass them out, and you're going to be like, oh, that flyer didn't really work, right? Maybe I need to tweak the flyer. So instead of spending $5,000 and passing them out to doors that the flyer really isn't that your first flyer that you've done, or what, maybe second flyer you've done, you learned, okay, this flyer didn't work. Let me tweak it before I spend a bunch of money to pass them out door to door. pass them out direct mail, I mean. Well, before I spend all that money, let me tweak the flyer to make sure the flyer is exactly what I want and learn from it. And the other thing is, too, what I heard an idea that someone did is they printed up 3 different flyers. So they're all designed differently, and then they pass them out in areas about the same, not the same area, but different subdivisions, but the subdivisions are shaped the same. They're the same kind of yards, same kind of areas like that. And then they determined which one worked the best. And then they did direct marketing, direct mail.
Okay.
It's just, like for us, we've passed out like probably 5 different flyers, and then the flyer we have now that we've passed out the last couple of years, I mean, I would never change it. We got it from Florida Turf Pros on YouTube. I don't know if you ever heard of that guy. I love that guy, but
yeah, I watch him all the time.
He's a great guy. I got his idea. We tweaked it, and I think our flyer looks better than the one that he had. But we have a picture of our family. We have a little paragraph describing our family. Then on the back, we have what kind of services we offer. But just the people have called in and said, "Hey, I'm not going to get your service. I already mow my own grass, but I'm just letting you know this is the only flyer I've ever read front and back." And so we've learned if we would have passed out, done direct mail 5 years ago, we would have wasted a bunch of money because the flyer wasn't that great, So that's that's my advice with direct mail is I do think it's worth it because you don't have to walk, you don't have to pay people to walk. You just print the flyer and send it. But I would tweak that flyer. Like I wouldn't do that this year and hold it off till next year so you can learn, did this flyer even work? Because if you pass out 5,000 flyers now, or let's just say 2,000 flyers now, and you get no responses, something's wrong, right? Something's wrong. Maybe you didn't pass out the right time. Maybe it's a different wrong neighborhood or whatever the case may be. You want to learn that before you spend $5,000,
Okay.
That's my advice.
Okay. And then with like websites, do you have one? And then do you also like pay someone to run that for you?
So we just go through Squarespace, yeah. And we got that.
Okay.
We got that like a year ago. And I'm telling you right now, we need work on our website. It does look professional. Squarespace is pretty simple to do. Well, I say pretty simple. It would take you probably a week, not like 40 hours, but it would take you a decent amount of hours a day, maybe 2 or 3 hours to get it set up, get some pictures on there, making sure you like it. It'll take you a decent amount of time if you've never done it before. But that's all we did. We just do Squarespace right now, and we had an old one, and then my brother redid it, and he made it more presentable. But really, if you're looking like for us, right, all we're looking for is for mowing customers for the last 3 years. So it doesn't have to be for a long. I know people say it has to look amazing. Well, that's true. It needs to look presentable. But if all they're looking for is someone to mow their grass, you don't have to spend a ton of time on it, right? The biggest thing is that button to say contact us or get a quote has to be right in front of them. So they just push that button and then they put in their information. But I definitely think a website in the last year, we've gotten a lot of clients from that website. And like if you search, at least the last time I searched it, if you search lawn care companies in Cherville, Indiana, the last time I searched it, it was like True Green, which doesn't cut grass, and then it was like Lawn Doctor, and they don't cut grass, and then we were the third one on the Google search. So we were starting to like hit on Google, which someone's in Cherville and types in I need a lawn guy. Well, if we're the third on the list and we're the guy that cuts grass, who are they going to call? Usually it's the first person they see. But I definitely think a website is worth it, absolutely worth it. It's just I don't think you need to spend $4,000 on someone building a website. We did it from Squarespace. And it took time and it took us a little bit, but we saved $4,000.
Okay, so I know there's like services out there where you can pay like a company to do like the SEO and everything. Is that worth it, or do you think just doing it on your own is the way to go?
So you said STO?
Yeah. Yep.
And what is that again?
Showing up on.
It's blanking my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, showing up on Google.
Is it worth paying someone to help you get shown on Google, like get on that first page, because I have no idea where to go, what to do to be able to be on that front page in my area.
So I think I actually saw a video from Florida Turf Pros, whatever, a couple months ago. It might have been a year ago now, and he said, hey, I hired somebody to do my website, and then I hired him he made me rank on Google, and I had no clue what he was talking about. So we just created a website on Squarespace, and now we ranked on Google. and one of the big things for that is you can talk to all of your customers and say, hey, we'll give you $10 off your next cut if you go give us a review on Google. And the more reviews you have, and the more, whatever rankings, like if they go and review it and they give you a 4 or 5 star or whatever the case may be, if they start doing that, then hey, that'll work. So if the motivation there is, hey, I'm going to get $10 off, I just go do a review on Google. So once people start doing it, then you'll start to rank more. So I think that's what is. I do think it might be worth it. We just never did it, and we started to rank. So I would say it's worth it because the people I've listened to have said it, but we didn't do it, and we started ranking. So,
okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really wouldn't. I tell people all the time, this is, if you got one more question after this, I like to keep the conversations like around 30 minutes. But like, what I say is like for equipment, for website, for all this stuff, the bottom line is do you do a good job, and do you communicate with your customers? Are you professional, right? That's gonna matter more than the type of lawnmower, right? People ask me, what kind of lawnmower is the best? Like, I don't even know. I've had Skag, I've had a one Toro. Our first mower we ever bought was like a Toro sit down. So, but what matters more is, do you do a good job? Are you professional? Do you care? Do you communicate with your customers more? And we did all that, and yeah, we make mistakes, and like all those negative phone calls on TikTok, like I put them on there for a reason, because they get views. That's the out of the ordinary. But if you communicate with that, I think you're going to rank. They're going to go on there and they're going to review it. So if you focus on growing your business, right, I think other stuff will kind of follow. And it does help, and it does help you get business. But like, we didn't have a website for 21 years. Like, we just got it last year. And we were doing fine before it. I think we would be doing fine even now without it. It's just kind of like a bonus now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. It was definitely a lot of help, and I know exactly where I'm going to go now. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, man, if you have anything else, you have one more question, like something like, dude, I really.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, ask it for sure.
We
got time.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that I kind of ran into was I kind of fell in the victim of falling into scams a little bit.
Okay.
One of the things, this wasn't necessarily a scam online, but this was a guy that I know that contacted me earlier this season wanting to do work together. He actually was my supplier this year for my plants. And he just didn't stick to his word a lot. There's 3 jobs that he asked me to help on, and it ended up him being the night before canceling on me. So there was like a week and a half of just wasted time, and it was easily over $2,000 in just, expenses that I calculated, and I'm sure it's a lot more.
Yeah.
How do you go about, trying to reduce, situations like this with like subcontractors? Because I would identify them as a, subcontractor.
Okay. So like are you saying like you would have like a job lined up and he would want to help you, or he had a job lined up?
No. Yeah, he had jobs lined up, and he would contact me to help him because I had the equipment to do it.
Okay.
And then you would just cancel the night before, and then those days would just be a bust.
Gotcha. Yeah, I gotcha. So I'll have to just help you in a way where I'm not experienced with. So like for us, we've never used a subcontractor. Okay, like if someone asks us, "Hey, can you help us, like do a job?" We've really never done it. as long as I can remember. We might have done it a couple years, but for sure the last like 4 years, like we've never, if someone has, hey, I got this landscape job, can you help me do it? Well, first of all, we're not in your situation because you have like equipment. It sounds like we don't have like a skidster. We do simple jobs. So people really aren't asking us to come and help them with their job unless it's like hey, can you help bring your guys over here and I'll pay them by the man hour. So I can't really, we don't do subcontracts. We don't do it for like snow. People ask us all the time, hey, why don't you like subcontract these snow out? Well, I don't want to deal with that. For me, I don't want to deal with another subcontractor at 2 a.m. not showing up to shovel this guy's snow. So we just don't do it. With that, I mean, you have to really consider, I mean, did he do that? Was this the only guy who did it, or was there multiple guys that did it?
No, there was another guy that did it, and I'm just kind of tempted to just like not have subcontractors at all, because I know some of the people I watch on YouTube will, preach it, have other people do the jobs for you and, make profit off of it. But it's just been hectic for me,
man. I mean, so I feel like even now, in my mind, me just thinking about, hey, if I had this, like, okay, we were going to when I took over 3 years ago, this is kind of like, it's not really, but it's like a situation. 3 years ago, we had these jobs. This person hired us to do like 40 lawns out in an area where we didn't go. Like we did it 4 years ago, but moving forward, we weren't going to go to this area. So we thought, hey, it'd be a good idea to hire somebody to do these yards. We pay them, let's just say $25 a yard. We make $5 per yard because we're charging them $30. And then the more I got closer to it, the more the idea did not sound good, and the subcontracting just didn't sound good, and so we just stopped. We just didn't. We just dropped them. And I really think you could do whatever you want. And the YouTube guys, they're big, and they got it. They seems like they got it under control. So like they're farther along, and maybe when I get far along, I'll have a different opinion. But having to deal with a subcontractor, I would advise you, don't do it. Like, don't worry about it, because from what you're telling me, the only experience you've had, at least, well, most of the experience you've had, it's been negative. And maybe that's not true. Maybe you've had good experiences, last year. But, if something is negative 50% of the time, like, why do it? Like, are you actually making money? And if you did make money on the good experiences, you're losing money on the other bad experience. So it's like even out. It's kind of like a waste of time. So I would just go away from it and go get your own jobs, like that's what I would do. If you focused all that energy on getting your own jobs, you're going to make more money in the long run.
Okay. Yeah. That makes total sense.
And like I said, I can only speak from like in my mind. There's no way, right, as of right now, there's no way I would do a subcontractor, just because I don't want. I've thought about it. I'm like, dude, what if this happens and this happens and this happens? Like, I would just rather go sell my own jobs. But it is a little different because I don't have my own equipment, and we do simple jobs that we don't need a skidster for. Like in the last 3 years, we've used a Bobcat. Never, we thought about, hey, we can rent this, we could do this job and rent a Bobcat. But then we're like, well, we're going to have to charge them like $700 more. They're not even going to want to do it. So we just don't do it. I hope that helps, man. I hope this conversation has helped, man. I really think, dude, your goal is 100,000. Your goal is basically around 50 yards, right? 50 reoccurring jobs by the end of the season.
Yeah.
And then $100,000 hitting that goal.
Yeah.
Dude, man.
Yep.
I don't. The way you're going, you got a head on your shoulder. How old are you now? What are you, 21, 22?
I'm 23.
23. See, man, dude, like, if I would have known the stuff that you already know, like, dude, I wasn't, I didn't, 23, I wasn't doing $70,000 by myself. That's for dang sure. So, props to you, man.
Well, it's thanks to you and everybody else that makes YouTube videos, because I certainly would not be where I am without that content and the resources out there. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, and two, with that is everybody has access to it, but you actually applied it, right? Like you actually went out and used that knowledge. Everybody has YouTube, everybody has books, everybody has podcasts they can listen to, but you actually applied what you took the resources that are available and you applied it. So, hey man, like I said, I'm gonna hopefully I can talk to you in a year from now, in a year, December, and we'll see where you're at. We'll see if you hit that goal.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Have a good one, man.
Yep, you too.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye. It seems like every conversation gets better and better. And really with what he's doing, he's at 70,000, but I think he's realizing quickly that something has to change or his body's going to break down long term, making his life simpler, making his life easier, maybe even more profitable. And sometimes it's hard when you're making $70,000 in 1 year at 23, your first year in business. Man, props to him to thinking, I'm going to take this and I'm going to just kind of break it down completely and fix it so I can move forward. When you have a bigger business, right? When you're like when we were 3 years ago, when we were at we were at $600,000 a year, we had to basically tear down all of the fluff and restart and build a better foundation. And it took us 3 years, and we're almost there, but it's going to be about another maybe half a year to get it to exactly where we want it before we can start building up. And props to him for wanting to tear it down and build it a different way. And it's not gonna be crazy, but he was at 1% for mowing last year. He's gonna try to get to 70% and 30% odd jobs instead of 99% odd jobs and 1% mowing. These conversations are great, and they sometimes they sound the same, but the reason why they sound the same is because the principles are true. And the pumpkin plan is true. The E-Myth is true. Hanging around the right kind of people is true. Listening to podcasts like he talked about. Listening to YouTube. Like, everybody has this information. And maybe you started following me. Maybe you started following people on YouTube 4 years ago and you haven't done anything with it. And your business looks the same. Just imagine if you applied it starting now and moving forward. 2022 is going to be great. I talked about goals in the beginning of this podcast. I'm setting goals for my year. I'm getting them ready to go. There's goals that I didn't hit, and there's goals that I did. But when you have goals and you're actually pushing for it, it matters, and you can see your progress. I love talking to guys like this because it motivates me. It motivates me to keep growing because he's gonna catch me. He's gonna catch me in 3 or 4 years. Appreciate you guys listening. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, because the only way we can push this out and help more people is if you subscribe and share. If it helped you, it's going to help someone else. Appreciate you guys. Read the book E-Myth Revisited this week. It's very short. You can read it in probably 3 hours. You can listen to it, maybe a 3.5 hour listen. Highly recommend it. Thank you guys. This is the James Goodall Show. This is the Goodall Show. I'm James Goodall, your host. Keep it real.